Well, g'day and welcome back. It's show number 3 and we're really excited. Tonight's going to be all about adventure motorbike riding, and we're going to get a little bit dirty later on. We're here at Adventure Moto at Eagle Farm in Brisbane, and a little bit later on we're going to be chatting with the owners, Jen and Steve, about adventure motorcycling in Australia and their involvement in it and what they're doing. So it's really going to be great. But Kylie's going to tell us what we're doing tonight.
That's right. So we are going to catch up with Jen and Steve from Adventure Moto and have a chat to them and look around the shop. Then I caught up with Warren from RideSmart over the weekend, and yes, that's when I got a little bit dirty. Went out on an off-road riding adventure with them, and believe me, it was a lot of fun. We then caught up with Jo from Women's Adventure Riders Australia, and I have the top on, I'm very proud. We chatted about some inspirational women who just love the dirt. And talking of the inspirational women, we actually have one of them coming in tonight as well, Chantal Simons, chick on the Chook Chaser. So very excited about that. She's going to tell us about her off-road adventures and her fears and lots of different stories to tell us. Then last of all, we're catching up with Michael Young from First Aid for Motorcyclists, just to go through that next step for if you come across a motorcycle accident.
And we'll be back right after the break.
Thanks for joining me today, Warren.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So on the weekend we went out and had a little bit of an off-road adventure riding course on these awesome bikes. Can you tell me a little bit about why you've decided to start this adventure experience with RideSmart?
Yeah, well, RideSmart's always done the road training and we've enjoyed that over the years, and I've always wanted to do the off-road, and we're finally going to bring it to the people.
Yeah, and you've had a lot of experience off-road.
Yes, I used to race motocross, enduro, and just leisure rode to Cape York once. And
so this off-road experience is pretty much for anyone that already has their bike license but wants to maybe have a go at off-road riding.
Yeah, we've decided, because we're going to mostly go to national parks and so on, we're going to make sure you've got your license first. We're going to supply the registered motorcycles, the bigger ones for anyone that's taller, and the DRZ, and then the little Honda for anyone that's a bit on the shorter side.
That's right, and I got to ride the little XR 190, and I have to say it was a lot of fun. For anyone more experienced, the Suzuki is great as well, and both these bikes are provided, and all the gear is provided as well.
We supply all the bikes, all the gear, and all the customers got to do is roll up at the location. We're going to start off with Mount Me Forest and take it from there. May do QMP dirt bike park and glass house maybe a little.
Yeah, it sounds really, really good. I got very dusty and dirty but still enjoyed it. Now it's also a really good course, a good experience for anyone who is thinking about travelling overseas and doing an overseas bike tour, because you also will give little extra tips for people for some off-road riding. Like places like Morocco and Vietnam and all different areas, different tours overseas.
We have a lot of road bike customers that are planning on going over to Cambodia, Mongolia, you name it, and a lot of those places they just have dirt roads and dirt bikes. So it definitely would help their experience for getting over there. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're looking for that really good off-road experience, whether it's dirt bike riding and you don't have the bike or the gear, or you want to get into adventure bike riding, like everyone's doing that these days, or you're thinking of going on an overseas tour and you just want to get that extra knowledge and extra experience, then contact Warren and Marnie from RideSmart and they'll be able to help you. Thank you, Warren.
Yep, thanks Kylie, thanks for having me.
Hey, welcome back. Well, that was a pretty exciting thing that Kylie did with the guys from RideSmart. So, you know, if you've got any interest in wanting to go do that, go hit them up and have a look at their Facebook page. We're sitting here with Steve and Jen from Adventure Moto. I was going to call it ADV Moto because that's kind of how we abbreviate it, but Adventure Moto. Yep. And you guys have come up from Sydney to your Brisbane store, which is great. So thanks for that. So tell us about why you picked Adventure Moto as the business to get into.
It was a need, you know. So I was a road rider, track rider, and a mate of mine decided to get me back onto the dirt. I had an XR75 when I was a kid, and I banged around on a YZ80 for a little while. But you grow up and you work, you raise a family, and for me, finding the dirt, going around in circles on a track wasn't enough. So I wanted to get out there, and I realised that 90% of the world's roads are, you know, unpaved, and every time I used to go on a road ride past a dirt road, I was just thinking, what's up there?
Yeah.
So getting Adventure Moto was about finding product that I wanted to use myself to enable me to find that freedom that I associate with adventure riding.
How's it been going?
Well, it's a long journey. You know, it's certainly not an overnight success because we've been going for over 10 years now. We started with one brand.
In Sydney though?
Sydney,
yeah.
But
That's right.
we started Sydney as an online store. It was a hobby, but it was driven by passion. And we started with one brand, and we've now got over 100 brands and thousands of SKUs and tens of thousands of customers. And so we've grown the business from an online store to a store with a warehouse, and then people used to bang on the door and say, can you let me in, I want to have a look at some product.
Right.
And we realised that some of the brands we were carrying just needed to be better presented, and so we started a small store by appointment only. So from online to bricks and clicks. And then when we moved, I sold a business and it enabled me to invest further into Adventure Moto, and we built a small shop in Sydney. And so our warehouse is based in Sydney. There's a very small shop attached to the warehouse. I think people come in and they get disappointed when they see how small it is. But thanks to Jen, because Jen comes from a very strong retail background. So when Jen and I met and you know, fell in love, bells and whistles, she joined the business, and best thing that ever happened, because the retail side of the business has grown exponentially, and the presentation you can see all around you, it's all her work. And so we've gone, so Brisbane was Jen's brainchild. The idea of opening another retail shop frightened the bejesus out of me, but we figured that we have to go where our customers are. And people talk about online being the future of selling, and perhaps it is, but we're looking at our customer base of people like me and you, Steve, that are in their 50s and 60s and 40s, and they really do still like an experience. They want to come in and see the jacket they're buying.
Yeah, they want to try them on.
Yeah, they want to know about a product. So we've embraced digital marketing, but we've also embraced old-fashioned customer service. And for us, it's really important that we try to find what our customers need and provide that. Yeah. And we have a saying: we don't sell anything that we wouldn't ride on or with ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, there's a bit of background noise.
Yeah, we're in a workshop.
That's Tyra's
That's right, absolutely. So, and that leads me to the next point, is just recently, I mean, Tyres for Bikes is a very famous Brisbane brand, and you guys have recently taken that under your wing as well, as you can hear.
Yeah.
Well, Rob Turton, who's an old mate, and when we came up to Brisbane to look at opening Adventure Moto, I thought about a workshop for a while, and this is ADV Works is part of trying to put parts on bikes for customers. I called in to see Rob and said, mate, where would you recommend? And he just says, what about here, mate? You know, and you know, he basically wanted to move on a bit. So we sort of talked about a merge. We talked about buying him out, and in the end, you know, he's still doing his thing up at the Sunshine Coast. And he will actually support us on some of our bigger rides next year. He's got the skill set that you just don't find.
Because he's an adventure rider himself, isn't he?
You know, so adventure rider.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it for longer than 99.9% of adventure riders out there. and he brings to the table, 40 years of experience.
Yeah, no, you could always count on him making a recommendation for tyres, knowing that it was well and truly tried and tested. So just in terms of the type of stuff you carry, like how just tell us about some of the like someone can come in wanting to get into adventure riding, and they can get everything from boots up.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can get boots, gear to wear, helmets, gloves, everything you need to wear, and everything for your bike.
Also, all the accessories.
So it's pretty much everything but the bike.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seats are really popular.
Yep.
Not everything, but everything you need.
Everything you need.
Yeah. Luggage.
Yeah.
Hard parts.
Yep.
Crash bars.
And why are the seats the most popular thing?
I
Is
think
that
because the
comfort?
manufacturers, when they make the bikes, don't really put much thought into the seat or the ironing board that they're putting onto the bike.
Yeah, and
So-
obviously adventure riding, you want to be comfortable because you're doing a
Yeah.
long days. Yeah.
So your clientele, you mentioned kind of there's a lot of guys in 50s. Is it predominantly the older guys getting into ADV?
Well, it used to be that way. I mean, we used to say our clientele's client base was 45 to 65, but you reckon that the market's getting younger and younger, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot more women getting involved as well.
That's right.
Which is always really good to see. Yeah. So it's really opening up quite a bit. Yeah.
We're talking a little bit about that later on. I think you're doing a bit of a chat with a couple of women adventure riders, which is terrific. I think it's great seeing so many women out there riding, and particularly off-road as well, and doing it solo.
The women's adventure ride scene is growing, and we certainly support that. I think we sponsor a ride series with Yamaha Australia, Ride ADV, and we're running an adventure ride for women's only ride in November.
So you have the Yamaha WR250.
I do.
Yes.
WR250R.
And it's perfect for you. You're
so
very
far
happy
it
with
is.
it. Yeah.
But
Great.
you had it lowered because it's a tall bike.
It's a tall bike. I also have a low seat on it as well,
Yeah,
which brings it down about an inch.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And we recently rode from Brisbane on a ride, Brisbane to Sydney.
Yep.
Jen
Yep.
did 5 days before the hospital visit, which is part of what we do. Is we
Actually, day 5's not bad. Yeah.
What got you into adventure riding? Because I know you mentioned earlier that you did have an MT-07.
I did.
So you had a road bike,
Yeah.
but then you decided to buy an off-road bike.
Yeah.
But then every time you went into the garage, you were always more...
I was drawn to the
Drawn to the-
WR.
yeah.
Something about those knobby tires. I'm not sure what it was, but I just felt more comfortable off-road than on-road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up just selling it because I always went for the WR.
Well, the advantages of going off-road, as we mentioned before, is less crowded, the scenery's better, the landscape is just, you're seeing so much more of the country by travelling on the back roads. There's generally less police.
Yes.
So
we call them 95%ers, and we say we're a 95%er. And the reality is that I'm not sure the statistics really how much of our roads are unpaved. But the way I see it is 95% of the time I would rather be on the dirt than on the bitumen. And I imagine that there's way more dirt roads and tracks out there than there are paved roads.
Yep.
And like you say, no police or less police unless they're riding with you, and because it's just so much out there to see and do, and you don't have to do it by four-wheel drive, you don't have to do it by horseback, you can do it by bike.
Yeah.
I think adventure riders overall respect the environment they're riding in. I've never met too many guys that are out there to destroy the planet. They're there to enjoy what they see, and
it's also a great support for the country community as well, isn't it? I mean, you get a group of motorbikes coming through and staying in hotels and, staying at pubs and staying at cafes and they're just injecting the economy with funds as they go.
And it comes down to respect. Like we get such great feedback on the rides that we run or help run with Ride ADV. We're working with, like you say, bringing groups of people to restaurants and they're all pretty respectful, so we don't leave the place messy, and certainly even going through private property, we always talk to the landowners, and most of the time they're quite open to having that, provided you knock on their door first, which is great.
Let them know, that's right. No, that's really good. So also you met Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman.
I met Ewan way back when he was actually riding a Harley before he got onto dirt himself. and
Before he was Obi-Wan.
Well, he was in here filming one of the Star Wars movies, and he was based in Sydney.
Right.
And he was actually renting a mate's place, and my mate rang me from overseas and said, "You need to go and fix Ewan's stereo. He can't get music to the pool room." So, I ended up meeting him then. But Charlie, I've met through the industry that we're in, because he's an avid and passionate adventure rider himself.
Definitely.
And he's a lovely guy, and he's great for the industry. And I believe they're doing another film.
Yeah, called The Long Way Up.
Yeah, fantastic.
Next year, which is going to be great.
It might get some younger people in again.
Another spike in the business for you. Well, listen, guys, thanks very much. Appreciate you letting us use the shop. We'll probably get Alison back a little later on, just talk about some of the things that are relevant to viewers in Brisbane and some of the specials you're running. And there's a big bike night coming up, which we're all really excited about.
Alan's organised something, and you better ask her about that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We will.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
So we'll be back after this break.
Welcome back, everyone. Recently I caught up with Jo Wharmby, who is the founder of Women's Adventure Riders Australia, and we had an awesome chat about some inspirational women and their excellent adventures around the world. How you going, Jo? It's good to see you.
Thanks, Kylie. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So I just wanted to have a quick chat to you about adventure bike riding and why you decided to take up adventure bike riding.
Well, that's a very easy story. I first started on a naked road bike, a Suzuki GS 500, and started riding in Canberra, ACT. And then my husband and I moved to Perth, Western Australia, and came across Charlie Boorman and Ewan McGregor and their famous DVDs. And, well, what else can I say? Amongst many other people, they've inspired many. I looked at my husband and he looked at me, and we said, let's do this. So after a few years in Perth, we actually moved to Tasmania, where we are now, just south of Hobart. And my first bike was a 650 GS twin, and my husband bought an 800, and well, that was basically the start of it. About 2008, we started riding in Tasmania.
Yeah, right. So I wanted to also ask you about Women's Adventure Riding Australia, the group that you founded in 2015. So why did you decide to create a women's only group?
Being in Tasmania, yes, we do have women here that ride. Not too many that adventure ride, and I am a little bit I hate saying the word isolated, but here in Victoria, so yeah, there are a lot of gents that I ride with, and I wasn't feeling left out, but it's always nice just to have a girl there. And I was actually working for a government, sad part of the story, and was a victim of workplace bullying, which was not very nice, and that affected my confidence, and it really affected me as a person. I got depressed, really just didn't want to be on this planet anymore, just felt belittled and humiliated, and I came home not feeling much of myself at all. So it was basically having a group where people can come and talk, and I felt as I was helping others, it helped me with my confidence. Yeah. And I come across women that say, I'm 58 and I've always wanted to ride, and I go, just do it, have a go. And great part of the story now is WARA, we've got over 600 members. It's taken some time. We've got women all around Australia. Yeah. All bikes. We've got dirt bikes, cruisers, Harleys, not so much. Trikes, and we've got a lot of women that are riding dirt bikes that are progressing into venture bikes, or everyone's trying different things, and we're all learning from each other. Yeah. and look, I love it, and I just feel awesome that I'm giving ladies the confidence to have a go. We've got ladies that want to ride with their grandkids.
Yeah, it's great.
And, you know, we've got a lady that's doing her L's at 68 years old. She's that close to death. What she got to lose? Just go for it, lady. Go for it.
And so your group is sort of like a centralised group where they can all come together, or they can all chat and talk about, I think, things for your bike, because it's completely different adventure bike riding. You need all these extra accessories, or you don't need them, but it is good to have them. Also, like what to pack on the bike. You know, how much stuff do you take? Can you take your hair straightener? Are you going to be camping? Are you going to be glamping? Are you going to be staying in a cabin? You know, there's so many things to consider. I'd be hopeless at camping, I tell you.
No, look, you'd be quite surprised. I mean, obviously when you're adventure riding, and look, I strongly believe if you're camping for a week or you're gone for 4 weeks, you basically have to take the same gear. Look, you can camp and be a bit glamourish. We camped every sort of 3 or 4 days and then stopped with an accommodation every 4th day just
so you
because.
could have a shower.
But yeah, look, we really had just sort of what we needed, and obviously you stop in caravan parks and cabins and support the local community for, you know, food and accommodation and things like that. So we'll get you out there one day, Kim.
Yeah.
Kylie, don't you forget.
Yeah. Sorry, what bike have you got now? You've got the...
Yep, I've got a 2015 F800 GS. She's red and she is absolutely beautiful. Yep. First big trip I did after it was a few months older, we did 8,000 kilometres in, I think, four states over 4 weeks with myself and 2 other girlfriends. Mm-hmm. Look, great bike. But look, everybody loves that bike, or it's too tall, or they're too short. Yeah. And amongst many conversations, you know, we do talk about apparel, safety gear, maintenance. Yeah, look, and it's all about just, look, my logo, it's Women Adventure Riders Australia, inspire, encourage and inspire. Yeah. Doesn't matter who you are, and we've got ladies that have got many, many years experience. Some ride with their husbands, some are single, some are widows. Yeah. Some are just doing their thing, and not all ladies, you know, have a man to turn to help with tools and stuff. So, you know, some are really want to be quite independent, and that inspires other ladies that maybe aren't so independent to go, oh, okay, well, if she's doing it, then I can too.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what it's all about. And today was Tippy Tuesday, where we do tips, and it was just about check your spokes, tyres, and just become familiar with your bike. Don't be scared of it. And there's never ever a silly question to be asked on WARA. Look, anything that encourages people to get on the 2 wheels or 1 wheel or 3 wheels, it doesn't matter. We're you know, look, we're all here just to have fun and be better at what we can do. So yeah, just do it.
Thanks, Jo, for joining us on iRide. It was lovely to have you. Thanks again.
Thanks very much for having me. And ladies, if you want to ride, go for it. You can do anything. Back to you, Steve, at the studio.
Hey, thanks, Jo. That was terrific. She looks like a lot of fun.
She was unbelievable to talk to. I had the best time.
There's some incredible adventures those women, though, they're doing.
I know, unbelievable. It's definitely not for me, but yeah.
Hair straighteners and adventure motorbikes. How does that work?
I don't know. I
Not
don't
even
think
going
it works.
there. Not even going there. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble for that. So the last show, we caught up with Michael Young from First Aid for Motorcycles, and we talked about what to do when you arrive at the scene of a motorbike crash and how you control the environment so everyone's safe. Well, this time we caught up with Michael and we talked about that helmet issue. Do we leave it on? Do we take it off? And there's a few myths around that we need to dispel. So let's go and have a chat with Michael.
Okay, so I'm here with Michael Young from First Aid for Motorcyclists. Welcome, Michael.
All right, thank you.
So we just want to find out from you, what do we do now that the rider is on the ground?
All right, yep. So that's the important part. As in the last episode, we looked at the safety around there, but there's a lot of conjecture out there about whether you remove a helmet or don't remove a helmet. So there's a couple of key principles around that. It goes around to the person or the accident victim, because if their airway's compromised, if they've started vomiting, if they're not breathing properly, we have to remove the helmet, because if we don't, there's going to be more complications. So, however, if they're conscious, they're talking to you, and there's no issues, then there's not a problem. You can probably leave the helmet on until the ambulance gets there. So, and that'll also help depend on what type of helmet they got, because you can get 3 or 4 different types of helmets. So if it's an open face, it's not an issue. We can look after their airway, but the airway is the important part here. So we need to be able to sustain some breathing, and if they start to throw up or vomit up, then if you've left the helmet on, it's not going to work. So we need to do something. So from there, and all the medical services will tell you that. So from there, and what we're going to run through is actually how to do that. So there's a technique in how to do that. So if you come and do a first aid course or a training course, we actually show you the proper way of doing it, to do it carefully, safely, and help sustain someone's life. So,
and we've got a few different helmets, so we're going to go through.
Yeah, we'll have a look. So there's 3 or 4 different types, and the technology now in helmets is amazing out there. So you really got to know your helmet and know what sort of helmet you got, and we'll have a run through some of those. So I've got some basic ones here just to have a look at. So from there, all right, so that sounds good. Okay, normally first step would be to undo the chin strap or to cut it. So because the integrity of the helmet's been damaged, so if you actually cut it, it reminds people to actually replace or get their helmet checked out from there. So from that, so you undo that first to make sure that it's not caught there. Then you need to make sure that the glasses are taken, if they're wearing glasses, so just remove those out of the way so we don't cause any further damage there. Then we can now start to look at actually removing the helmet. Okay, so we're now ready to remove the helmet. So it is actually better to have 2 people to help assist and hold the neck and the head while you're doing this. So I've got an able-bodied assistant here, Jeff. Just come down, kneel there. What I'll get you to do is just place your hands in there and just support the neck and the jaw there. All right, so you don't have to do anything or move or anything, just I'll do the rest. So now we're going to separate or stretch the helmet out, bring it up over the top, just hold the head there, and we just slide it off. So once I've got the helmet off, we support the head, and right from there, and now from here we can move on. We have to roll the person over and actually clear the airway and maintain their airway from there. Okay, so when you have a helmet, so look at the helmet, you've got some red tabs, especially on the newer style helmets. These are a quick release, so if you have to remove the helmet, we actually pull these tabs out because the padding that's in here is pushed up against the cheek and the jaw. By pulling that out, it actually makes it a lot easier to get the helmet off because you're not causing any sort of friction with that padding in there. So just check those on your helmets when you buy them. So another style of helmet is the, it's a full face. It's a full face helmet, but we can actually flip the jaw back. So this can actually help maintain an airway without taking the helmet off. So, because when you pull this back, this will come back right over the top and it basically turns it into an open face helmet. And we can actually maintain someone's airway with an open face helmet if we need to. This type of helmet is basically a full-face helmet, but we can actually pull the jaw piece all the way back. So that's actually going to help maintain or look after someone's airway a lot better, because if we don't need to take it off, we can just flip the jaw back and then we can actually look after someone in that condition as they are there. Similar to the other one we looked at, it actually has a removable jaw, but it doesn't go back as far. So you could still check someone's airway and still look after them, but the jaw piece is not going to go back as far. So you may need to consider taking this one off so we can actually look after the person completely. This one you definitely have to remove if we have any airway compromise, because it's the full face helmet, so there's no detachable jaw, there's no movement. It does provide good protection, but when we want to monitor and look after someone, we do actually have to take this off. So from there, because there's nothing in there. So as we've shown before, there are other new style helmets now that you can get. One is the Voss helmet that's out on the market now. Basically, it has a suction cap, or basically incorporates the nose and the jaw, and you can actually lift it up from there, which makes it a lot easier. I don't have one here, but you can see them in a lot of the stores. They're actually very good because you actually lift it straight off the face, so you actually don't have to move the person around. So there's a variety of styles of helmets out there. Find one that suits you. Probably the most popular of the helmets. So from there, basically it's the open face helmet. So this one we don't need to take off at this stage, because we can actually monitor someone's airway. We can actually look after it from there. We can actually still roll them over if we need to and do what we've got to do without actually taking it off until the ambulance gets there. So from there, so if they have an open face helmet on, you can still look after someone without removing it. Just to clear a few facts about the myths of whether you remove a helmet or don't remove a helmet. Primarily, if the person is conscious and they're talking to you and they're breathing, there's no need to take the helmet off. So don't put them at any further risk there. Just tell them to stay still, wait for the ambulance to arrive, and they will do that. So the time that we need to take the helmet off is if the airway is compromised. As you've seen before, when we took Kylie's helmet off, I'd assessed her, she wasn't breathing properly, there was a possibility that she could have blocked her airway, so I have to take this off so I can actually sustain her life life even further, and to do that I need to get into there, and we have to remove the helmet in those circumstances, and especially if it's a full face helmet, because I can't move the jaw away, I can't get the jaw out of the way, but on a full face helmet we do have to take it off. But if she's breathing okay and she's all fine and the vital signs look really good, I probably wouldn't do it until the ambulance arrives, because they've got all the good gear to do it properly. All right, that's a lot of information we've been through for a very short segment. So what I strongly recommend is that you actually get some training, because we'll run you through how to do this technique properly from there. So you can jump onto the First Aid for Motorcyclists webpage and the Facebook page, have a look at upcoming courses and enrol in one. I strongly recommend that everyone does one if you're out there riding. You never know who you're going to come across. It could be you, it could be a family, it could be a friend or your best mate or a stranger. So you can be the person that can save someone's life just by doing a little bit of training and grabbing some knowledge that can help in the community.
And welcome back, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, we are here with Chantal Simons on the Chook Chaser. Welcome, Chantal. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Kylie. How are you?
Yes, good. So we've been talking a little bit about a few different things, and especially I wanted to chat to you about your adventures that you've been on and around, and you know, if you can tell me a little bit why you decided to do this.
I've always loved motorbike riding, and my dad basically got me into it a little bit. Growing up in the Netherlands, I could only get into riding when I was about 20 and had the money to actually get my license. Yeah. So I did my first trip around Europe on a Ducati Monster, which is completely unsuitable, but
I read that.
Great fun. And then got hooked, really. Went over to New Zealand, bought a really old bike there and rode around. That broke down every 700 kilometres.
Great roads over in New Zealand though.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Met so many nice people, and I think the combination of riding, seeing beautiful sights and meeting incredible people, that's what got me onto it. And then I started doing longer distances, so I came over to Australia, got my XT250, and rode that all the way around Australia. Decided that I wasn't quite ready to grow up and get a real job. So I shipped my XT over to East Timor and rode it all the way back to my parents' place in the Netherlands.
Wow, that's amazing, and what an adventure. And so the XT250, how did you fit all your luggage on there? That would have been a mission.
It was a bit of a mission, and obviously you always carry too much.
Yeah, especially women.
Yeah,
I know I do.
Yeah. It's hard to get rid of that one dress. Like you carry one dress with you just in case. you
might
never
need
it.
Yeah,
you never do. So yeah, I had a rack, and my first setup was actually on the cover of my book. If I could show that.
Yes.
I had some like carry-on bags that you take on a
luggage that you
you take them on a plane as a carry-on suitcase, and I zip tied those to the side of the bike.
That is amazing.
And a plastic toolbox on the back as a top box, and a $7 bag from Aldi. That was my dry bag.
Really?
That was my setup to start with, and it was all really low budget, and I just got better at inventing ways to carry all my stuff. And
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, nowadays bikes pretty much come with all of that already. So, but you did it, all by yourself, inventing it the cheapest way possible.
And it was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I think I wanted to chat to you about bike therapy, your mindfulness. I suppose to me, bike riding on the road is a meditation in your helmet. It's just you, your bike, your own thoughts.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you hear quite a few people say, I'm going to go for some helmet therapy now.
Yes.
And it's really true. Like, it's spending that time with yourself, doing something that you absolutely love doing, and enjoying it.
Yeah.
And so, my bike riding is my mindfulness.
That's right.
And it's through that I've become really aware of what happens in my head.
Yes.
And when you spend a whole day after day after day on the bike with just yourself and your own thoughts in your helmet, you learn to manage them quite well.
That's right, definitely. So it's definitely a form of meditation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The other thing, I read one of your blogs on your website, which I absolutely loved, and the one that I really enjoyed was the fear one.
Yes.
So you spoke about what do you do when you run out of fuel? What do you do when your bike breaks down? When you're in the middle of nowhere, what if you run out of water? I mean, these things are all going through your head, and I remember reading your blog and I was thinking, oh my gosh, yes, I would be freaking out right now. Did you have those anxious moments?
Oh, always.
Traveling? Yeah.
Still, like,
yeah.
as weird as this sounds, I rode halfway around the world, but I'm anxious about getting lost in places. Yeah. Like, with a phone that has Google Maps on it, it'll take me anywhere, and I'm anxious to get lost.
Yeah.
Yes, I had those fears, and it's by recognising them and saying, oh, okay, this is what's going on for me right now. What would I do if this particular worst case scenario would actually eventuate? And then when you realise that there's 10, 20 options of solving the problem,
then it doesn't seem so bad.
So why am I actually that afraid of it?
Yeah.
You know?
Why have I got this fear of it? Yes.
And it's when you get over those little fears, you start taking the bigger steps, and that's when you start riding further, or when you start exploring exotic places. And I got to a point where I was in Iran and my passport validity wasn't long enough anymore to go through the next country. My bike had broken down 3 or 4 times in Iran, and I'd spent all my money on that. And in Iran, you can't use your bank card, so all the cash that you carry in is what you have.
Wow.
So I was in Iran with a broken bike, no cash, and no passport to get through to the next country. And I got myself out of that situation.
See, that's amazing.
It's like when you do these things, at some point you sit down, well, if I can get myself out of Iran with a passport that isn't quite valid anymore, a broken bike and no money, I'm sure I can ride through that river, it'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever happens, I'm going to be okay.
That's right. And I think, well, you know, some of your stories that I've read are just absolutely inspirational and amazing. And I'm so happy to have you on the show. So everyone, this is Chantal's book, She'll Be Right. And as you said,
yes,
everything she'll be right. Really good book. But also check out Chantal's Facebook page, which is Chick on the Chook Chaser. Chantal Simons, and also you've got a website with a blog, and there's lots of other information on there as well. Thank you so much for coming in. I really enjoyed this chat with you today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Well, we're at the last stage of the show, and if you're from the Brisbane region and you've had anything to do with the Adventure Moto store, you will know our next guest, who is Alison Rinaldi. And Alison is going to give us a bit of a run through of what's happening next month here at Adventure Moto.
So Alison, you have a garage night coming up.
We do.
Yeah, so what's all that about?
So we're just opening the shop for one night, and we're going to have a handful of special guests. So we're going to have young James Powell,
yes,
which has been on the show.
Yes.
We're going to have Chantal Simons, talking about her travels. We have Garmin, a Garmin rep. He's coming in to give a bit of a demo on all the different Garmin's GPSs you can use.
Awesome.
And we have Rob Turton coming in, who is the tyre guru. Yeah, so he's going to do a talk for us. So it should be great.
Yeah, and it's you're also going to have a show and shine. So there's
lots
of prizes to be won as well.
Yes, so that should be very interesting. So
everyone could just bring their bike.
So
bring your bikes
is it any
down.
bike, or is it adventure only?
It's more specific for adventure.
Okay.
And because that's what the night is more entailed
Sure.
for, is the adventure guys.
Yep.
Well, you say show and shine, a lot of guys bring their Harleys out and their Chrome.
Yeah.
So all right, just keep it ADV focused.
Yes.
Sure. So what night is it?
So it's Wednesday night, 21st of November, and it's 5 till 8:30. We also have a lucky door prize as well, so that's a bit of a surprise.
Great. So someone will, you'll be handing out tickets, and they come
We
in?
will, yes. So everyone will receive a ticket, and so good luck with entering. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it should be fun. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alison.
Thank you.
It's been awesome, and hey, thanks for letting us take over your shop for a little while this afternoon.
No
as well.
problem whatsoever.
All right, well, that's it for us. So Kylie and I thanks again for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you next month. And don't forget to share the video wide throughout the Facebook group, and it'll go up to it'll go up to YouTube afterwards as well. All right, see you later.
Have a great night. Bye.